Grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. This is the Don't Miss It podcast with your host, Sophia Spiritualite, part of the MariKaNa News Network. This is our third podcast of the week, and in this podcast, we discuss presidential actions and orders because a lot of them are really important. And in the first two podcasts for the week, we break down things that happened during that week, very important headlines, and go into a little bit of detail about that. So on this third podcast, we go through the presidential actions. This is for the week of February the 10th, through February the 16th. And of course, today is March the 15th. And so this particular executive action talks about our national energy. Now, before I usually do a little intro, before I go into the actual executive order, which is a little bit longer than the one we did last week. Energy is a huge deal in this country. The reason why energy is such a huge deal is because you need energy to get things done. Now, from a 1,000-foot perspective, a lot of fake news or fake information is being passed around that we did not use energy in this country prior to Alexander Graham Bell and electricity and all of that. But if you've done any research into the area of Tartaria, right? And if you look at the world's fairs that were happening in like 1825 and things like that, 1880s, when they had these big giant world fairs in these big major cities, they ran on electricity. Even in the actual, some of the actual pyramids in Egypt, they have things that look like electrical outlet plugs. So energy usage is not new. Now, we used to have a much more efficient way of gathering energy, and that was through the ley lines and things like that. But they destroyed our ability to be able to do that with their bloodshed, because in order to be able to use energy in that fashion, you have to be at one with the planet. And because these people are dead set on bloodshed, the planet will not yield its energy to us in that manner anymore. Now we have to take different measures to get the energy. However, if we were to come back into proper unity with the earth and protect the earth in a way that's way more correct than what we're doing now, again, I do believe the earth will yield its energy to us in a way that's beneficial. So, for example, one of the lies that they sold us about oil and gasoline is that it's limited. And that is not true. There's an unlimited source because the earth has the ability of creating more oil and more gas as oil and gas is being used. And so these climate, people who worship the climate and not the earth, they lied for a long time saying, oh, well, we're going to run their fossil fuels, which is not true. They run off of, the dead bones of dinosaurs, which is insane. And somehow we're going to run out of that. Like, none of those things are true. Oil is like the blood of the planet. Hear me. Oil is like the blood of the planet. As long as the planet is alive, oil is going to be coursing through the veins of the planet. It's called a vein. When you find an oil vein or a gold vein where they mine for gold, a silver vein where they mine for silver, they're called veins for a reason, because they can be regenerated. This is also why gold is not money, silver is not money, because it's not a fixed amount. I know that people believe it, but if there's unlimited amounts of oil. There's also unlimited amounts of gold and silver because they all are discovered in veins. Now, these veins are not everywhere, just like in your body. You don't have veins everywhere where they can draw, quote unquote, draw the blood from. It's only certain ones. My friend is a phlebotomist. I'll make sure I pronounce that right. My friend is a phlebotomist. She would tell me, painstaking detail, the best veins to try to draw from, because she's got really small veins. So she would be trying to tell them, look, I need y'all to draw from this vein. I need y'all to do this vein. She would be like, no, let me just do it myself because y'all are going to bust out my veins. So this is what... Study a little bit of phlebotomy. You will understand that that is exactly how the gold, the silver, the oil, the natural gas, all of that stuff flows through this quote unquote body that is the earth. Now, there are certain places like Europe, Western Europe specifically, that don't have no veins. They don't have any. Because why? That place is a desolate place where the Hamites were regulated to. That's why they don't have nothing. Because those people, the barbarians that live there and have colonized that area, they are colonizing a dead area. So that's the reason why they don't have nothing. And they never will, because those people are relegated to, that is their prison. They have to stay there. So what they did was they tried to say, okay, since we can't have anything, nobody on the planet should have anything. That's what they did, because guess who has a lot? Again, our twin stick for the United States is Russia. They have lots of oil, natural gas. It's the breadbasket of Europe. Really, they have to pay homage to those people, just like here in America, the people who are relegated to South America have to work with us. They just have to. There's a reason why there's a North America and then there's a South America. There's an absolute reason for that. And it's certain barbarian people that are from the bloodline of Ham that are literally in these areas, and there's no it'll come to pass that what I'm saying will be clear to certain people. But it's really important to understand that this stuff is unlimited. Just like they're talking about, oh, we're going to run out of fresh water, this and that. It was just discovered that less than, I don't know, maybe 100 miles under the crust of the earth, there's more water than is in all the seas, literally. So there's tons of clean water, fresh water, that hasn't been tapped by plastics, tons of it. And I also heard that there's algae now that eat the plastic, because we some people have been asking for solutions, and so some algae came up, and that's what all they do is they eat this microplastics and remove it out of our oceans. And so you have a lot of this stuff in place. But again, if you study death, like all you understand is in the death of things, then or better yet, if you don't understand revenue, the actual creation of wealth, then you will just think that, these things are just by accident. No, it's the creation of wealth. This is how you create more wealth. It's with revenue, not with stealing like these people always do. So let's read this presidential action. It's called Establishing the National Energy Dominance Council, the White House, February 14th, 2025. By the authority vested in me as president, I don't know why I get this line wrong. By the authority vested in me as president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Policy. America is blessed with an abundance of natural resources and is a leader in energy technologies and innovation that are critical to the economic prosperity and national security of the American people, as well as our partners and allies. We must expand all forms of reliable and affordable energy production to drive down inflation, grow our economy, create good-paying jobs, reestablish American leadership in manufacturing, lead the world in artificial intelligence, and restore peace through strength by wielding our commercial and diplomatic levers to end wars across the world. By utilizing our amazing national assets, including our crude oil, natural gas, lease condensates, natural gas liquids, refined petroleum products, uranium, coal, biofuels, geothermal heat, the kinetic movement of flowing water, and critical minerals, we will preserve and protect our most beautiful places, reduce our dependency on foreign imports, and grow our economy. thereby enabling the reduction of our deficits and our debt. It shall be the policy of my administration to make America energy dominant. Section 2, Establishment. There is hereby established within the executive office of the President the National Energy Dominance Council. Section 3, Membership. The Secretary of the Interior shall serve as Chair of the Council. The Secretary of Energy shall serve as Vice Chair of the Council. B. In addition to the Chair and Vice Chair, the Council shall consist of the following members: the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Treasury, the Secretary of Defense, the Attorney General, the Secretary of Agriculture, the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Transportation, the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, the United States Trade Representative, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Assistant to the President for Economic Policy, Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs, Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, the Chairman of the Council on Environmental Quality, the Chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, the Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy, the heads of such other executive departments and agencies as the President may from time to time designate. Section 4, Functions. A. The chair shall convene and preside over meetings of the council in consultation with the office of the chief of staff, provided that in his absence the vice chair shall preside. B. The council shall 1. Advise the president on how best to exercise his authority to produce more energy to make America energy dominant. 2. Advise the President on improving the processes for permitting, production, generation, distribution, regulation, transportation, and export of all forms of American energy, including critical minerals. 3. Provide the President a recommended national energy dominance strategy to produce more energy that includes long-range goals for achieving Okay, sorry about that. Where did I leave off? Everybody woke up all of a sudden. Let's start on section 3. Provide to the President a recommended national energy dominance strategy to produce more energy that includes long-range goals for achieving energy dominance by cutting red tape, enhancing private sector investments across all sectors of the energy-producing economy, focusing on innovation, and seeking to eliminate long-standing but unnecessary regulation. 4. Advise and assist the President in facilitating cooperation among the federal government and domestic private sector energy partners. And 5. Advise the President on facilitating consistency in energy production policies included in the strategy development under subsection B3 of this section. C. In performing the advisory functions listed under subsection B of this section, the Council, through the Chair, shall, when appropriate, coordinate with the Assistant to the President for Economic Policy, the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, and the Assistant to the President for National Security Affairs. The functions of the Council shall report to the Office of the Chief of Staff. D. Within 100 days of the date of this order, and from time to time thereafter as deemed appropriate by the Chair, the Council shall 1. Recommend to the President a plan to raise awareness on a national level of matters related to energy dominance, such as the urgency of reliable energy, the improvements in technology achieved through reliable energy sources, the national security concerns with removing reliable and affordable energy sources, the jobs supported by the energy sector, and the regulatory constraints driving up the cost of reliable energy to consumers. 2. Advise the President regarding the actions each agency can take under existing authorities to prioritize the policy objective of increasing energy production, such as rapidly and significantly increasing electricity capacity, rapidly facilitating approvals for energy infrastructure, approving the construction of natural gas pipelines to or in New England, California, Alaska, and other areas of the country underserved by American natural gas, facilitating the opening reopening of closed power plants, and bringing small modular nuclear reactors online. 3. Provide the president with a review of markets most critical to power American homes, cars, factories with reliable, abundant, and affordable energy. Advise the president regarding incentives to attract and retain private sector energy production investments. 5. Advise the president on identifying and ending practices that raise the cost of energy. And 6. Consult with officials from state, local, and tribal governments and individuals from the private sector to solicit feedback on how best to expand all forms of energy production. Section 5. Administration. A. The council shall have such staff and other resources and other assistance as may be necessary to carry out its functions. B. Agencies shall cooperate with the council and provide such assistance, information, and advice to the council related to policies that affect energy dominance as the chair or at the chair's direction. The vice chair shall reasonably request to the extent permitted by law. Section 6. Representation on the National Security Council. The Secretary of the Interior, as chair of the council, shall serve as a standing member of the National Security Council. Section 7. General provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect 1. The authority granted by law to an executive department or agency, or the head thereof. Or 2. The functions of the Director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. B. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. C. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any party against the United States, its departments, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, agents, or any other person. The White House, February 14th, 2025. Wow, that was a lot. So, one of the things that stands out is the fact that they want a, you would call it a advertising campaign to tell people how important energy is. So this came up recently, right? Because in the state of Maryland or PG County, their electricity rates are going up again. So they're like, they were like 14 cents per kilowatt hour, and they're going up to 16 cents per kilowatt hour. And so, a lady, not a lady, the assistant governor, what's a lieutenant governor. I'm so sorry, y'all. My congestion is bad. I want to cough in y'all ear. The lieutenant governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears, is a Jamaican American. She was like, keep y'all energy policies in Maryland, because in Virginia, their energy rate is 13 cents per kilowatt hour. So I am a refugee in the state of Florida, and I was like, well, how much is it in Florida? Here in Jacksonville, it's 6 cents per kilowatt hour. These people are getting raped over the coals for energy, and that's why specifically they point out Alaska, California, and New England. These what they're paying for energy doesn't make any sense. It's not reasonable. It's not, the energy is not reliable. They tried to implement all of this like solar power and all this stuff. And again, I mentioned to you, if you don't have unlimited sunshine, even if you remove the trees, you still have to have a lot of direct sun. And I also think it has to deal with the meridian lines and stuff that you're on. So if you're not in a certain area where you're going to have a lot of access to the sun. Solar power doesn't make sense. Neither does wind power, because again, the resulting birds and whatever that they take out in the process. So these quote unquote green energies are actually not doing what they're supposed to do. So to hide the fact that they're not doing what they're supposed to do, what many of these states have done is raise their prices and say, well, that's just how much energy costs. But I'm like, wait a minute. In Florida, we have a lot of sunshine, but they don't rely on solar power because of they can't rely on solar power because of the storms and stuff might blow away the panels and all of that. So I don't know exactly where we get our power from. I think it's from multiple sources. We could use hydropower here too. But our energy is only 6 cents per kilowatt hour. That's a huge difference. And I had never even looked into that when I moved, but yeah, my energy costs way less than half. And I can't imagine paying twice as much as I'm paying right now for the amount of energy that I'm getting. Is actually insane. So, and we have to run air conditioning down here, as you know, in the summer because it's really hot. We also have to run heat in North Florida because it's also cold in the winter. I mean, we get pretty cold, not as cold as they get in the north, but it still gets pretty cold here. So we have to run both, and our energy doesn't cost as much. So there's that. So running advertising to explain why energy is so important in this country to our people and what difference it makes in, for example, a $10 dozen of eggs versus a $2 dozen of eggs. People don't understand it because they have so disconnected people from the way that things actually work that people don't understand that. So I think it's really good that they're going to be doing advertising around this and trying to get the word out about how this stuff works, because people literally don't know how anything works in this country. And so I'm glad that these things are coming out in such a way that people can step by step follow along with what is happening and not be completely and totally left behind. So I've gone on long enough about this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, my apologies for the disruptions, but it is what it is. We do the best we can over here. So thank you for joining us for this week's Don't Miss It podcast. Again, I'm your host, Sophia Spiritualite. Peace and blessings, and we'll see you all on the next podcast.